I know some of you are just getting in. I'll let you get settled. I hope the conference has been great for you so far. My name is Tracy Barentes, and I'll be the moderator this afternoon. The ladies will be taking care of their session, but if there's anything that I can help as far as the room is concerned, I'm definitely happy to help. One more reminder about your parking. If you have not heard, it is so much easier if you go ahead and pay now and get your ticket validated before you leave. The wait for the credit card to go through the machine is long, which means the line is much longer. And today we'll all try to leave at 3:32 since everything's open over at 3:30. So I just encourage you to do that. If you have been here all day, parking is $10 total. So it's $5 for the morning, $5 for the afternoon. And so you'll have a total of $10. So anything else, all of the workshops are up on the TWC website. So if you double booked yourself or there's a session that you thought, oh, I wish I could have seen that, all of the materials will be up. And you'll also get a survey about the conference and what are things that we can do better. So I'm going to turn it over to the ladies, and you guys enjoy.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We are really excited. Can y'all hear me? Okay, good. I get a thumbs up in the back. Oh, come closer. Sorry. My name is Jessica Dersen. I am the Director of Career Awareness and K-12 Partnerships at the Workforce Solutions Capital Area, which is in the Austin-Travis County region. And I'm going to pass it over to my counterpart.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm Kelly Moreno. I'm the Chief Solutions Officer for Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area, and we do the 9 counties surrounding Travis. So we're the donut, and they're the donut hole.
So for today's presentation, we really want to showcase some regional collaboration that we have going on within the donut hole, the donut around Austin, and really how our workforce boards have worked together in really raising the bar for our K-12 students and really helping young people understand the exciting careers and demand opportunities that are not only in Austin, but even on the outsides of Austin through the Austin metro area. So let's jump into this. Housekeeping really quickly. If y'all have questions, we're gonna break every couple slides just so we can pass questions or go around and ask questions and then pass the mic to you, just so we can definitely make sure that our audience online gets a chance to hear everyone clearly through this presentation. Today we're going to talk about, one, our workforce board service areas. If you're new, we have a map for you. Some of you may know the workforce board areas, but we're going to kind of show you where we're at. And then we're going to talk about our Career and Education Outreach Specialist Program, where it started, where it's at now, and some work that we've done within that program, and how we've taken a regional approach, working with 2 workforce boards. We all have our different local flexibility, our different programs, but we really have tried to take an intentional effort and really working together so our customers have a really clean user experience through our systems, and we know where to direct them when they're working between 2 workforce boards. And then we're going to talk about some accomplishments, lessons learned, and then we want to highlight our Youth Career Exploration Funding. It's an idea that I actually stole from Rural Capital Area that I'm super proud to share, and hopefully y'all can take that back to your workforce boards. Kelly, this is yours.
Well, so you can see where we're at down 14 and 15 and the areas that we cover. So this is where we try to make, because we know employers and school districts honestly don't care what county you work for or what county you serve. They just want to work together. So this is the areas that we cover.
Here.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so as Texas talent experts, we are data-driven in everything that we do, and so I really wanted to showcase this slide and statistic with you to really share why we do the work that we do. So this data is from E3 Alliance, which is a local nonprofit in Austin, and what they determine through enrollment statistics, post-secondary statistics, is that students who don't earn a post-secondary credential of any sort have a 12% chance of making an earning in the Austin area within 6 years. So if they don't earn a certification, an industry-based certificate, college enrollment, college persistent, a degree of some sort, they have a 12% chance of living in the Austin area. This is, to me, a pretty striking statistic, and it's why we at Workforce Solutions have outreach specialists, which we'll talk about in a second, actively in middle school, high schools, really educating students, parents, counselors, teachers on the various pathways that are high demand, high paying, that lead to some sort of credential. And there's a whole list of them. And so really we are very intentional in how we address that to our students. So as mentioned, we have both our workforce boards have a program which is called the Career and Education Outreach Specialists. This program actually was launched and piloted in 2019 with the leadership of Lori Knight, who's actually in the back of the room, if you want to wave. She will be a really great resource for you. She works with Texas Workforce Commission, and she was the one who piloted this, and essentially, workforce boards were able to have grant funding to hire full-time career and education outreach specialists. The goal was for these specialists to be fully embedded in middle and high school campuses where they're working hand in hand with educators, counselors, and providing students with all sorts of different materials, whether it was resume development, soft skills development, disseminating labor market information, really rich data, breaking it down to a level that students and parents really understood. And we do a lot of other sort of things. I know at Capital Area, we currently have 2 full-time specialists working within 5 school districts and over 30 middle school and high school campuses. I don't know if you want to share who you have.
So we have 9 counties with 36 school districts, and we're currently in around 15. We have 2 outreach specialists working on us. We're trying to build that team as we go, just because we have so many campuses or districts to work with. But that's our goal right now, is just to focus on the ones we have. We're about a year younger than the Capital Area team, and because we came in a little bit later into this game. So this really was our first full year to have outreach specialists on staff, and they've done an amazing job getting into those districts and making those connections for us.
Yeah, and so a few services we provide, besides what I've already shared, is we also have our career and education outreach specialists help bring industry speakers to the classroom. So we work really closely hand in hand with the career and technical education directors within the schools. If you're not familiar with that, definitely look into it, because that is our future workforce. We have students that are actively obtaining post-secondary credentials and skills that a lot of our employers, in especially I would say Austin area, are dying to reach and really help bring up skilled talent into their open positions. So we work hand in hand with the CTE team in bringing industry speakers, whether that's a health science teacher or physiology teacher, that's health science too, skilled trades teacher, interested in maybe bringing an employer to speak about their career journey. That's something our outreach specialists are actively doing. We also coordinate career fairs. I think this is probably the most popular service that we provide, and essentially what we do is we work with the counselors and we will bring employers, training providers, colleges, and they're almost event experts. I'm looking at Kelly's team here. I'm like, am I right? Y'all are event experts in bringing and coordinating a lot of these events to help the students have a successful experience in learning about these different opportunities. They coordinate job shadows and site tours. We'll talk about those a little bit later. Externships for teachers and counselors. So Texas Workforce Commission actually has a competitive grant for workforce boards where they help sponsor a stipend for educators to go to a business for a few days to learn about the skills, certifications needed to be successful in that industry. And this is something the specialists are actively recruiting educators and businesses for as well. We also help connect students to internships, apprenticeship programs, earn and learn opportunities is what we call them. And then, as mentioned earlier, we have a robust collection of career profiles, as well as TWC. They have a lot of really great labor market information that we package and we present to students and parents. I always throw in parents because they're very influential when it comes to the student's career journey and what they do post-graduation. And then lastly, there are situations where maybe the workforce board is not able to really provide that supportive service or that wraparound service for in-school youth. So we are experts in who we should refer them to, whether it's one of our CBOs locally, our WIOA youth contractor if they're out of school. We really just try to help that process be seamless for the students we work with. So this is my team at in Austin at Capital Area. We have Monica, who serves 2 school districts, Austin and Del Valle. We have Paige, who serves 3 school districts, Manor, Elgin, and Pflugerville. And then we recently hired a regional work-based learning coordinator, Zara, who essentially is the business-facing specialist and coordinator that really helps bring the business and industry engagement to Paige and Monica. So the way we envision it is, Paige and Monica are actively in the schools working with counselors and teachers and students. And Zara is bringing those big name employers who want to connect with K-12. I always name drop Tesla because they're a huge partner of ours, and they're super interested in working with students. So Zara and myself are working with the employer and bringing them in and helping them plug in a very seamless way, because employers are busy. They have, we hear ROI so often, and we want to make sure that it's a return on their investment. So it was really important that we had someone that can kind of be that buffer between the two. And then those are the school districts that we serve.
Okay, and here is the Rural CAP team, and they're actually here today, Amanda and Laura, if y'all want to wave. Again, they started in September, so they're just finishing their first school year, and they've hit the ground running. So we had to get all the MOUs in place with all ISDs, and that was a lot of work and getting into the schools, but now they are completely swamped, and we never see them. They do a lot of job fairs and such, but these are the districts that we're currently serving in, and then we can support any of these districts around. We also have had some contact from charter schools. A few of those have reached out, so that's also an option. But with 36 districts we already have to handle, it gets a little bit challenging on time management. But our team does work across the board, and we work with our counterparts at the Capital team and also Central Texas team up in the Temple area. We do a lot of work with them as well, just so to make that coordination better as we're crossing across counties.
We'll pass it over for the mic over for questions here in a moment, but Kelly brought up a really good point that we did not put in our slide deck, but that was collecting MOUs. And although I had the luxury of the program being in place before I stepped into my role, I know my previous director, she had that same challenge. And I think you definitely want to have a very strong value proposition when you're working with these school districts. It definitely takes some time in building that trust. So you can't necessarily go in and say, we want to help you, we have a whole team to help you, because I think at first they see the counselor CTE team as enough support and help. So it's really important that you evaluate where their gaps are in their services. And I think for us, it was really that employer engagement piece. So we've taken that strain off of the CTE directors, their own personal work-based learning coordinators, and we have provided a database of employers that we've already gathered information on, and we have determined what sort of engagement they're interested in. I know we personally have a K-12 capture lead form that we send to businesses, and they identify whether they want to be a speaker, whether they want to host students for field trips, sometimes mentorships, externships, and we really help foster and cultivate that relationship with the employer and help facilitate those engagement opportunities throughout the year. So that has been a huge value add to the school districts, as well as I think the career fairs. Events are hard to plan, and it's hard to get people there, and when you have a great network of employers and training providers, we really help eliminate that stress on the districts. I don't know if you want to comment on any other tips you learned in the value add proposition.
I think for us, it was coming alongside in the classrooms and helping the teachers meet those TEKs, they have to, and sometimes they don't have the expertise to do that, and we can bring in tools that we have, and honestly, it gives a teacher a break. If we can teach that TEK for that day, that individual can go do something else and get some other work done. So that, I think, has been a benefit for us. Laura and Amanda may have some comments. We are going to bring them up in a minute, so if they want to add to that, they can.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to pause just for our virtual audience. Does anyone have any questions?
We need the
Do
mic.
you, one moment, she's going to bring you a mic. Sorry.
I just wanted to let everybody know we're recording, so we'll be asking you to ask on mic, and that was my fault for not being here soon enough.
Can you expand on mentorships?
Oh, yes. So we actually do not have a program for mentorships. A lot of times each school district, sorry, I can't see you, but I'm talking to you. Each school district may have their own internal mentorship program, and we get ad hoc requests where it's like we need we had a sports medicine request recently. We need a sports medicine mentor to come speak to this student, and so we make that connection and facilitate it. We do like to be very hands-on, so we typically will ask our career and education outreach specialists to be there to help make sure it's a successful experience until they feel comfortable, letting that mentor come, back again with the school district. Do you have a mentor program? No. Any other questions before we move on?
So we're fortunate that our board leadership is engaged already in a regional approach. We work closely also with our partners at Alamo. So the three boards are already working together. And so what this has done is allowed us to have the same languages we're going out to the K-12s, to the employers, and so we're all talking the same business speak. We're not talking workforce speak. So that was one of the goals we want to do, and also the education speak, because we know if you go into schools, they all have their own acronyms. I don't know how many of y'all have seen that, and TEA has their special branch of things too. So this is where we have come together. Our teams are coming together to create programming that we're sharing on a shared drive. So if someone comes in and wants labor market data, they're going to get the same presentation, whether it's from rural cap or capital area. So that way it's already done. We show the tools that we use and make it easy for everyone to understand, and then make it fit for the audience that we have. So if it's a junior high group of students, it's going to be fit to junior high. If it's high schools, or if it's a TTE directors, if you're doing, professional development training, those all are going to be there. So our teams are able to just go pull down the resources they need. They don't have to create it from scratch. So that's been fantastic for us. We're still in development, I'll have to say. We're not quite there yet because job fair's got in the way, but we'll get there by June. And then this is just one of those things about the workforce experts sharing our best practices. We all have huge teams at our offices, so we go out and talk to them. We see what's going on. We talk to our business consultants. We talk if you've got apprenticeship teams or other groups out there to see what's happening out there and how we can best bring those groups together and what's the best way to develop the talent pipeline. I think for most part of the state of Texas, we're all short on workers. So that K-12 pipeline is critical for us to start developing it out now. So we need to be, I have one of my things, do not work in a silo. So I'm always collaborating, trying to figure out how we can work together to make the best experience possible for our students, our customers, employers, everybody. Again, they avoid the duplication of outreach to employers. Don't know about if you've ever had a complaint about an employer saying I had 5 different people from your organization call me. Why aren't you all talking to each other? And so we're trying to reduce that duplication so that we're all on one page, and sometimes that could be through a CRM system. So someone can say, oh, I saw you already reached out to X employer. Let me go to you first and see if you can make that connection if I need a specific thing. So that's one of the tools we're getting in the system right now is a CRM, so we can find out who's talking to who and when. And then trying to align our efforts and standardize services. I mentioned that earlier. We have changed all of our languaging and our offerings, our service offerings, how we want to do it. We have 5 different levels that we offer to employers based on their needs after we listen to what they're needing. And this, we offer this out to them. Our business service consultants offer these programs out, and depending on what it is, it could be a full concierge program where we're doing all the work for them and they might have some skin in the game, or it could just be we're going to load your jobs into work in Texas, and then we'll go out to our K-12 team and say, hey, these opportunities are coming up. Maybe if you've got a graduating senior that might be in a pre-apprenticeship program or is coming out with some certs through the CET department, they can roll it into another job. So trying to get that information in front of The CTE students, especially the graduating seniors who do not have a 4-year plan, then we can connect them with jobs opportunities right after their graduation. And then school district collaboration, sharing best practices. Our teams talk all the time, almost weekly, I think. It seems we're always on the phone doing something or sharing information. So we're always sharing what's going on. And of course, Lori and her team does a great meeting every month, which she always brings in these amazing speakers and teaches us what other people are doing out there, because it takes all of us to work together to make this opportunities for the K-12 team, because every district has their uniqueness, but we can take those same basic ideas that they're giving us and tweak them to our districts or across your region if they're similar enough.
Yes, I'm just going to emphasize something on this slide because, and that's bullet point number 3, and that's avoid duplication of outreach to employers. Like, as you know, we're right next to each other within the Austin metro area, and, you know, Tesla, I'm going to say it again, and then Samsung recently expanded, and they need a workforce, a skilled workforce to really fill their talent pipelines. And, you know, instead of each workforce board and every CBO, every school district targeting that same employer because it's the popular, you know, employer in town, we have positioned ourselves as workforce boards to kind of be that regional convener, if you will, where we're hosting industry work groups. We have our industry sector partnerships, and we're really working hand in hand together, so we're not asking the same employer for sponsorship for the same event or an event during the same month. And so it does require a lot of open communication, meeting on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be long meetings. Sometimes we skip a meeting because we're busy. But it's really just saying, you know, what are y'all up to? How can we help? How can we even tag team and work together? A great example of it today, I just want to highlight, is we have our K-12 health work group where we have some big employers such as Ascension, Seton, Baylor Scott and White, and St. David's Healthcare. They participate in our work groups, and we have rural cap school districts attending as well as capital area school districts. And it was actually this morning, we had a full session of all the different opportunities for students within the region. And really employers, you know, they don't really care what county line you're in. They're just like, bring us your students. So it was really just bringing everyone to one table. And I'm sure I talk about that later again in this presentation, but it means a lot.
So how many of you all have the teacher externship program going this year? Okay. So congratulations. Yeah, so this program is for teachers to go out into the community and be in the business world for about 3 days and work with the employer to see what is actually happening in the real world, so they can take it back to the classrooms, and then they'll be writing lessons plans that we're trying to figure out how we're going to share those out, but we'll figure that out. But you know, that way you can really tell your student, if you're going to be an accountant, this is what your day looks like, or if you're going to be on the manufacturing floor, and let's say Samsung, you're going to be in a bunny suit for 12 hours. Can you live in a bunny suit for 12 hours? Because somebody will be claustrophobic and that won't work. So trying to give the teachers that exposure so they can give the real data to the students. So we can see here that last year was 237 teachers were trained between the 2 areas across many districts. Every teacher I've talked to has been great for them to be involved in, and of course then they can take it back to their staff and share with what they've learned. And it's just a good program, and you know, right now we're all in the middle of finding teachers and businesses and matching those up, so that'll all go in June. So we'll see how it goes this year.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the teacher externship program. It has been an amazing resource and professional development opportunity for teachers. And I also want to say this year we're targeting counselors and college and career advisors. And partly because through a lot of the work that we've done in the schools, we've learned that counselors and CCAs are actually, just like parents, very influential in what students select as their endorsements and CTE programs of study. So we want to target those counselors. I think we lived in a time where college was pushed so frequently, and that was, you know, it was college or bust, right? And now as workforce experts, we see these I don't even want to say alternative. We see these other high-quality education pathways like apprenticeship programs, pre-apprenticeship programs. And so our job through this externship program and through the work that we do together is to really educate counselors, CCAs, teachers, parents on all those other opportunities. So this externship has been a really great way to do it. Employers love it. They come back, they're like, man, these teachers were so excited to learn about my industry. And so I do want to share one success story that I think is really meaningful, especially those who may be in vocational rehab here. We did have some teachers go to a plumbing HVAC company, and they actually worked for visually impaired and blind students. They helped support them in job training, and they actually learned that there was like many jobs that did not require, you know, full visibility, that students were actually able to do, like dispatching if they were visually impaired. So there was a lot of really well-paying dispatching jobs. So I heard that during our debrief. I'm like, man, that's amazing. I would have never known that had I never, you know, gone to this employer. So that was a cool success story that we always share through that. It's me. So this is just a picture. We're going to show off that we actually invited Commissioner Trevino, the latest Commissioner of Labor. He attended our most recent Metroplex Career Rally, is what we call it, and we're super proud of this because this is a regional effort. So we invited 36 of Kelly's school districts and 5 of Austin's school districts, and we brought students, these were high school students, into our local 286 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union. If you're not familiar with Austin, we have a lot of great registered apprenticeship programs, both union and non-union. And so this was an industry-led tour where the apprenticeship programs from all different trades came out, and they showcased each of their programs. They showcased their wage packages, benefit packages. I think students, I don't know if you see any pictures. Oh yeah, there's Milwaukee. They got to, they won some Milwaukee tool bags, DeWalt tool bags, and it really makes it very exciting for them to learn about the pathways that are available within our region. And so we had over 200 high school students. It was a 2-day event. One thing, if you ever work with schools, is to keep in mind transportation. So we really try to tailor around bus schedules. That's a huge thing right now, pro tip. And so this was during like a 9:30 to 2 o'clock time frame. Do you want to comment on this at all?
One thing I would say, if you all have unions in your area, get to be friends with them. They will bend over backwards to do stuff for your students. It's amazing what resources they have available to them from the national and local level. So we use them all the time, and we can always count on them to provide something for us. And they're right there. They're one of our best partners with us. So that's my only encouragement, is get with your unions.
I'll pause for questions in a second. Let me go through 2 more slides. And she is right. Unions have a lot of employers at their table, and so you definitely want to, if you touch one association or union, you get a bunch of employers behind them that already have that trust. So it's a really great resource. This is another picture of a work-based learning exploration event we had. TCS Mechanical is a mechanical contractor in Bastrop. They were in Austin at first, and then they moved to Bastrop, which was their county, so it's like we have this same relationship with this employer. But they're very invested in K-12 and really want to support students in welding and construction pathways. And so they invited us out to learn about the different career opportunities. And again, this was another regional event where we invited all districts. And another great add-on value to this is, you know, you're going to have students show up, right? You're not targeting just one campus. You have several campuses. And so we open it up, first come, first serve. They provide the transportation, and then we got students in the building that day.
I think one of the things I want to add on here is, as she mentioned, they moved from Austin to Bastrop. And you're probably seeing that too in your areas as companies are expanding. Maybe where they were originally is landlocked and there's nowhere for them to go, so they're going to the next county over, but that may be out of your board area, but they still have that relationship. So for us to cross over and be able to work with them together, it's been a huge asset. And I think for the community of Bastrop, because they're seeing it too, that we don't care. We're going to make it work for whatever you as the employer needs. So just encourage that communication, open lines of communication, and what's going on, because it always comes back down to the funding on the back end of things, but we as the boards can work that out behind the scenes. They don't need to know who's paying for what.
That's a good point. It does just come down to funding at the end of the day. All right, after this, I'll open up for questions. But we also want to highlight our virtual reality headsets. I'm going to pass this over to Kelly because they have done a lot of incredible work in this area.
And if I could get the microphone up here, because I'm going to bring my team up, Amanda and Laura, because they're the actually ones that do the back-breaking work. I do not. So,
Do you want us to come up there?
sure.
She just dropped this on us, just so y'all know. So our advice on virtual reality headsets, how many of your boards have them? A lot. How many of you are using them, or are they collecting dust? Some using them? Okay. So when we started in September, this was kind of like a daunting task for us. They were very scary, and we were afraid to go out and do them. And Lori actually had a booster call, and Lori, forgive me for not knowing which board it was. Coastal Bend. Okay, so Coastal Bend did a booster call, and they talked about kind of their best practices, and we decided that we better just rip the Band-Aid off and go for it, and so that's what we did. Our very first event, we got 250 kids on headsets in 2 days. They had them in 13 sessions in a day, and they were 20-minute sessions, and we were charging them like crazy in between sessions, and we did 20 at a time, which was a lot, but the folks that presented said, don't ever go by yourself, so we went together, and it went really well and was a great success. And since then, I think we've reached probably 1,000 kids. We've gotten like 1,000 kids on headsets in the last that was in February, so in the last 3 months. So we've kind of just gone for it, and it's worked really well. Every single one of those schools has asked us to come back next year already, and they're trying to get us on the calendar before any of the other schools do. So I'll let Laura tell you about some of the little tricks and things that we've learned.
It has definitely been a learning process for us. And really, as we first started, it was just difficult. We didn't have a lot of time. And so moving forward, it was communicate your needs to your school. We send a picture of how much space they need, because when we say we need a space of a 5 by 5, they don't understand that. So now we send diagrams and pictures. We want to be set up for success. We want the students to have a great experience. And also just getting in front of students and reminding them why we're here. And I think we sometimes forget that. I want them to understand the purpose. We still have teachers that come and they're like, okay, so we're playing games today. We are doing career exploration because students don't, I tell students all the time, I changed oil for the first time and I was so excited to tell my mama I changed my oil because it's a great experience. And I have students that say, well, I want to do sports. Sports isn't an option. And I'm like, this is a great opportunity for you to experience life. Doesn't mean it's going to predict your future. This is a time for you to go change oil, to go see what welding's about. And maybe you're going to pick up a hobby. If it's not a career, maybe it's something that you enjoy or that you can tell a friend about. It's more than just a video game for them. So I always want to remind students why we're doing this, other than getting a break from class. So some pointers, chargers. We have to take extension cords, power strips. That has been our biggest struggle. We've kind of experimented multiple ways depending on how long your classes are. We have tried to do a whole class all at once, and what we found is that it's just too much a 40-minute, 30-minute time frame. It's a lot on their eyes. As much as students are in front of video games all day, to put VR headsets on, it's a different experience, and it came to be too much. So we found about a 20-minute time frame for them to do a simulation was plenty of time for the students. Making sure that they're charged, having extension cords. We roll in, we have the plan, we know exactly how it all functions, and extra batteries. We want to make sure that everything is sanitized as well throughout.
I would say too, knowing your population. We've been to some districts where the kids are super familiar with VR headsets, and so we give them a little bit more leadway as far as which app they're choosing, whether they're going into the virtual training center and doing the aviation stuff, or whether they're just strictly sticking to the career exploration app. The kids who have not had a lot of experience. We went out to Schulenburg, and I think there were 6 different school districts that came throughout the day, and they didn't have a lot of experience on VR headsets, so we just stuck with career exploration. But when we went to Liberty Hill, those kids were ready to go. We had to give very little instruction, so we were able to let them experience a little bit different of, simulations. Like they could get in and out of the apps easier than the kids in the more rural areas. So that would be advice too. Just know your audience and what they're capable of doing and what they're familiar with. Anything else, Kelly?
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
They may need the mic.
This is the mic. I have the mic. Sorry.
Into your presentation. I forgot I'm working. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask if you guys have done these VR goggles with students with disabilities. Like I know, like sensory sensitivities, the pressure of the headbands and stuff, or students that have like visual impairments. Have y'all experienced any of that yet?
Yes and no. We haven't had any students that have visual impairments. We have had some with like hands. Hands have been a difficult thing, and it was great feedback for us to come back and say, we do have a point of contact through our headsets, and it wasn't feasible for some students to use. And so we tried the very best we could, but it was also something that we took back, Zach is our contact, to say, hey, this wasn't doable. And it was something that they didn't have that feedback on. And so they are looking to make those changes to be able to use one controller, something of that effect, because right now that isn't an option for students at all. So.
We have had, I will say we have had a couple of kids in like a wheelchair, and we just set them to the stationary boundary, and that's been able to work for them.
If I could just add to the conversation. So we have 20 regional teams currently spread throughout the state, and I have the privilege of being able to lead those guys. And so we've had a lot of conversations with the teams who are utilizing the headsets, and through our vendor, we're able to give them feedback, and we tell them exactly what's not working for which populations. And because of that, they're now working on closed captioning every simulation. And there are simulations that are going to be created specifically for someone in a seated position. And right now, they're rolling out more simulations. So they're starting to roll out healthcare occupations, a little more of like finance, kind of business sort of things. And it's because of the feedback from the teams who are using them.
You're welcome. Thank you.
How much time did y'all have to spend in the programs to learn them before you could put them on the kids and kind of, because I know we bought the transfer VR version, which I think is what most everybody is using, and so you don't see what they're seeing. So how many times did you have to go through these simulations to learn it?
To be totally honest, we have not gone through every simulation and done that. The kids are very, very capable of figuring out what to do. Sometimes we'll have to take the headset off their head and put it on ours to solve a problem for them, whether they can't figure out how to like turn a knob or grip something. But we focused mainly on the career exploration ones. We've gone through most of those ourselves, but the kids are really, yeah, they're tech savvy. They figure things out pretty well.
I can add to that if you want to.
Okay. When I said rip the Band-Aid off, we literally just used
We ripped the Band-Aid off too recently. So we're from Workforce Solutions Greater Dallas. The way we get around that is we can actually cast it to a TV. So you can get a Chromecast dongle. It's $50 to $60. You can take it with you if they have a TV or if they have a projector. You can plug it in, and you can cast the VR, what you're seeing in one of the headsets, to the screen. That way, instead of going through all the putting on the goggles yourself, and I definitely know what that's like. It's a challenge. That way, they can all see it at once. You kind of train them, show them where to point, click, and do the things, and then it becomes a lot smoother. So that's how we've gotten around it.
I would say also to his point, if you have a school that doesn't have a gym to give you, or they don't have, sorry, I keep forgetting the mic. If you don't have a school that has a space for you to be able to put 20 kids on a headset, doing that option is a great option too, where you put one kid on the headset in the classroom and everybody else can see what they're doing. We have not personally done that yet, but it is a great option for using those.
I had two questions. One, are you enrolling any of these eligible students into Title I WIOA?
That's a question. That's a good question. So I don't know enough. I know enough to be dangerous, but we are not actively enrolling in-school youth into WIOA. This is, our program is personally funded through TWC, through TANF funding, but you can also use private funding to help support outreach specialists. I mean, you would then join the network under Lori's team and, us and help, be a part of the collective or group that we have throughout Texas. But we don't start working with students in WIOA, for instance, until after they graduate high school.
Well, nobody really wants an in-school youth anyways, right? They're hard as hell to serve. But my second question was, is there a particular vendor that has these virtual reality career simulations?
We all use transfer, I think, right, Lori?
Oh, did you? And my board area actually touches y'all, so Brazos Valley. Yeah, so if you want to, I'll give you one of my business cards and we can.
Yeah.
That's regional collaboration right there. Any other questions? Oh.
Excuse me.
Hey, I'm Karen Stubblefield from the Deep East Board, and I just wanted to comment to you about the WIOA. So our specialists have finishing up year 2 and have been, I guess they finally are building relationships and trust, and they are making referrals now to our youth staff at the workforce centers to get them enrolled. So it takes a little time to build that relationship, and then they'll start coming and saying, what do I do about this? And then the referrals are we're seeing them beginning to happen.
That is absolutely true. I know spring semester is the time that, because we have a lot of really great training programs that are really great for high school graduates. And so similar to what you mentioned, the referrals are happening right about now. We're working with our contractor staff to get students referred. So once they're eligible and out of high school, they immediately have that seamless placement already available.
I have one more question. So you have found this to be a full-time, year-round position? Yes. Because all we've done is buy the goggles and open the position. We haven't filled the position and started doing anything yet. And so that was one of our concerns. Is this somebody who can work the WIOA program sometimes, but also do this sometimes? This needs to be a person full-time.
Full-time, so this.
There were 3 more, yes.
Okay.
We do serve 36 school districts.
Well, we're the Panhandle. Yeah, we're the Panhandle, so we got, 26 counties, and they're going to have to spend some time. And right now it's one person. We only bought 10 pair of goggles.
So during the summer, we will be developing their planning. It's our planning time, just like a teacher, it's their planning time. And they do a lot of nights and weekend works during the school year, so kind of trying to balance out some of the time they've given out already that they didn't have opportunity to. So I guess right after school starts, we start planning for next year and getting our programming together. So that's what they'll be doing during the summer.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And I will say, definitely talk to Lori if you get a chance to talk about filling that position, because even when Kelly came on board and I had some staff turnover, we help support each other in what that job description may look like, what interview questions, because it does take a very special person to really engage with the students. Amanda and Laura are amazing, so is my team, and they are full-time positions. We only have 5 school districts and only 2 specialists. They have 36, 2 specialists, and it's still not enough. But the more programs and offerings you have as a board to offer, such as VR headsets, externships, there's a way to coordinate it to where they're not traveling everywhere, right? You can develop a program and people can plug into it, and it's not just these one-on-ones happening all the time.
And it's not just the headsets, right? We do resume workshops, we
We're doing professional development with teachers and counselors. We're attending every teacher association conference over the summer you can imagine. We're also doing a lot of product development or project development that we can then share out to all of the teams. So we're doing a lot of work in the summer. It looks different, but there's plenty of work to do in the summer.
I guess so. My question is, I'm out of Region 6. Is this something that we would go to to the board about, or like how can we bring it up as something if we feel that it would be very I feel like it would be so beneficial for some of the kiddos that I serve. But at the end of the day, it's not like it's just in VR. It's through workforce. So I guess over time, is this something that's expected also to be throughout the state, or is this just like you said, we kind of rip the Band-Aid off and give it a go, or?
I think that's a Lori question.
Yeah. Lori?
Yes. Look, let's put.
So the workforce boards can join the network anytime they want. All they really need to do is send a letter of intent. And the letter of intent could be an email. And it's just to me to say, hey, we want to join the network. And essentially then we get you guys onboarded, and then we introduce you to the rest of the network, and we meet once a month to do booster trainings so that you're continuously trained on different topics. As far as the boards wanting to come on, are you talking about like building events? Okay. I would like to think it's not foreign, because I've personally been doing outreach work to schools since 2014 through TWC. So it's been around for a minute, but we took the regional approach for the first time in 2019. My team has also onboarded a lot of VR folks. So navigators and the counselors, we do anybody really who wants the training, we'll provide it. It's training of trainers so that you guys can replicate whatever it is that we're doing with your specific programs. And to get folks invited out to come to like your schools or to talk to your programs, it's really just sending an email. And I have these little brochures. I'm having a session right after this in the North End. But I'll have some of these flyers out on our OEI table, so Outreach and Employer Initiatives. Our contact information is on the back. This QR code will take you to an online Padlet that gives you access to all of our resources. But if you just email and say, this is my county and this is the kind of help I want, I'll find the right regional team to connect you to, or our state level team can cover it if that area doesn't have a team.
Yeah, I guess just because they had mentioned it's a full-time job
Mm-hmm.
position, so I'm like, I already have a full-time job position.
Yeah.
Everything else, but I just feel like this is something that we can definitely benefit in with serving any students.
Yeah.
And it's free, so.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And yeah, so you can literally email me and just let me know what your needs are, and then we'll determine if it's something that a regional team can accommodate, and if not, we have a state level team that covers anywhere within the border of Texas, and we'll see if we can support that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to stay.
Okay, you stay right here with me.
I love the lively discussion. This is what we wanted.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank y'all for the questions, and we'll open it up again. I think we just have a few more slides, and thank you, Amanda and Laura. Please stay with us if you want, so in case there's other questions. So I want to share some best practices, kind of how we are working in the youth career exploration space. So not only do we have our outreach specialists, we're hyper-focused on career awareness and career exploration. And so some tips to walk away with today is here listed on the screen, but one of them is regional convening. So in the photos, in what we've talked about, we really take a regional approach in everything that we do, and that's kind of like the key word this year is regional. So instead of me having my own work group with our districts, you having your own work group, how can we merge those efforts together and invite partners to the same table? So again, no duplicating efforts, working with similar training providers, similar colleges, similar employers, and all being in the same room and taking that regional approach, I think, is super key in being strategic and getting stuff done. And it's really great because you have lots of different backgrounds, lots of different interests, and I guess vantage points from employers to K-12 to CTE. And it's really great to have all the minds come together and come up with a solution to the problem that you're facing. Let industry lead. This is huge. You'll be surprised. Some of you are in this space, but it's quite shocking to me that we now have employers that realize the importance of working with high school students. I would say probably 4 or 5 years ago, it was almost trying to convince them that there's talent ready for them. They didn't really want to bother with high school students or middle school students, and I think things have shifted. And so let them lead. If they have an idea, TCS Mechanical is a great example of an employer that was like, we want your students. How do we make this happen? So me and Kelly actually had, was it weekly or monthly calls with the executive assistant of the business, and she told us what we wanted. On the back end, we're like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna set up the registration page. We're gonna get the information out. And the employer kind of just led that conversation. Which leads me to find industry champions, allow them to lead work-based learning for students, and then we'll provide the event support. So industry champions, y'all may know a few of them. They come up, through networking events. It may be an HR recruiter or a community, I forget what they're called, liaison within the companies. And you want to really leverage those relationships, cultivate those relationships, because they're going to help build that pathway for your students. Whether, again, it could be anything from a mentorship to a field trip to an externship. Really cultivate that trust and lean on them for support, because it's going to help your school districts in the end. Communicate value proposition. I kind of shared this earlier. What's in it for the employers? Always have the employers in mind when you're approaching them. We've had, stories of school districts immediately going to a new employer saying, we want $20,000 in equipment and supplies. It's like, yeah, that's not the first thing you ask on a first date. You want to cultivate that trust. So I think we have been able to navigate those conversations and help employers see the value proposition before we make any asks whatsoever. And then also, what's in it for the ISDs? School districts have testing. They have a lot of things going on, and so you want to help structure what you can do to help support them. And then the last thing that we had recently learned is to emphasize the importance of valuing each other's times and resources. Businesses take their time to set these events up. They have maybe superintendents coming out, business partners coming out, and they want to make it a really great experience. So we've learned to communicate to school districts, show up, respect time, make sure your students are respectful, professional, and it really helps build that relationship. I know I've said relationship so many times, but cultivating trust is the first thing in building any sort of employer engagement strategy. If that's not there, I wouldn't even bother asking for anything. Do you want to comment on?
Yeah, she alluded to the employer. We had the ISDs communicate the value of the employer's time. We did have an ISD that failed to show up twice on 2 different events. You do have to have those hard conversations with them, and don't be afraid to go in there and explain what happened and what the impact to that employer was. A lot of times they don't understand, because they may never have worked in the corporate America, so they don't understand what happens when they pull that many people off the line. They just lost that much money. So as in our roles, we'll be the ones that go in and talk to the ISDs, and vice versa on the employers. It's always better to get that stuff up front and say, this is our expectation, this is what happened, let's see what happens, so we don't do have that again, because they're not fun, but we have to have them. One thing I have to say is Jessica was already in place when I came on board, and she just welcomed us with open arms, took my team on when let us shadow them. So, building those pathways between our boards has been really instrumental in this team's being successful, I feel like. And I think our team, I'm talking for them right now, but I think they would feel the same way.
Yeah, and I don't know if is there anyone from West Central Texas in the room? Yay! Well, I don't know if y'all know Amelia Reeves, but I also have her on speed dial too, and she's all the way out in Abilene, and she has a really great program. To your point, we've really, thanks to Lori's leadership, we've really been able to lean on one another, take each other's best practices and scale it and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And this is our first year working together, but we've had a lot of impact in just less than a year. And we still plan on looking at ways where we can work together. Last slide, and then we'll end it with questions, is, I'm using my paper slides over here. I just want to point out a best practice that I actually stole from rural capital area, and I think this is a really great place for people to start if they don't necessarily have a team quite yet, or if they want to scale their awareness efforts in schools. So one thing that rural capital area has done is they have created this youth career exploration grant application for partners. So essentially, Workforce Solutions, both of our boards, I don't know if I think it's available to most boards, has Workforce Commission Initiatives funding through Jobs Y'all. It's a Jobs Y'all campaign, and there's funding allocated for students and parents to learn about career and post-secondary opportunities. Historically, my team has used that funding to help, buy mobile hotspots for the VR headsets or purchase labor market information, career profiles to help get those designed. We've had to go through three-bid procurement for every single thing. So what I learned is we were able to create this into a grant application instead. So for instance, an ISD, a Chamber of Commerce, maybe a youth serving organization can apply for sponsorship, and they will give us the information up front. The name of the career event, the sort of career opportunities students will be exposed to, how many youth will attend, educators, parents, all of the really rich data. And then on the back end, our outreach specialists can help support the event. Recently, we had a youth serving organization apply for sponsorship. I think it was less than $3,000. We awarded them. They served over 100 students, helped with financial literacy, resume development, career exploration, and even got professional headshots through the sponsorship. So it's been a great way to kind of leverage current funding. And what we plan to do, I'm like speaking on this is like their thing, but I'm excited about it. What we plan on doing is every grant opportunity that we have, we want to put in a little bit of allocation towards that pot of money so it can be a sustainable grant over time, and we're essentially impacting more students in the long run. Now, I think part of the requirements is they do have to add a Jobs Y'all logo as well as the workforce logo, and then you can also put it on their Jobs Y'all TWC website, which is kind of cool. And then I don't know if you want to share kind of your experience with it and what y'all have funded.
So actually, she might kill me. Tracy Slaughter back there is our contract manager for this program. And I do not know all the things that were sponsored because she manages that. So if you want to talk to her, she'll be glad to tell you. We've done, they're going to kill me when I get back to the office. We've done events with the chambers. There's something called Taylor Trade Day, where the Samsung expansion is, and they bring in all the skilled trades and manufacturing. We help sponsor that. We have sponsored, 2 or 3 day events in Hayes County ISDs. So it's just a random, like we have one there for the Georgetown ISD Manufacturing Day. That's a really cool day where the students go out to manufacturers in Georgetown and get to tour with them. You cannot buy food with this money, just so you know, no food. Learned that the hard way. So
and no marketing.
And no marketing. Yeah. So, but they take it on. We give them the grant. So after that, we're out of it. We're just and they know we're there to support them, but they handle all that marketing from their side of the house because we've been removed from that. But it's a great program, and it lets the school districts or the chambers take ownership because they know their place is best, and then we can come along and support them.
And you can do this with any funding. It doesn't really have to be TWC. It can be private funds. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes it's like so many different grant opportunities. And I think one area that most corporate sponsors are interested in foundations is skills and workforce, especially in youth. So we hope you can take this and maybe build your own grant application for your local areas. And it's a resource. We always want to be resourceful for our partners, and this is one way that we're able to do that. All right, so I'm going to end with our contact information, although it doesn't lead directly to me and Kelly's LinkedIn account, but I'm sure you can find us on there. And this will be shared out with everyone, I'm sure, afterwards. We are with Capital Area and Rural Capital Area. But now we're going to open it up for questions. We have about 15 minutes left, and you can ask anyone up here any of your dying questions. We have one in the back.
Can you talk more about how you're using those WCI funds to make grants to other organizations? Is that what you're saying you're doing?
Yes.
So you're getting reports back from them on, you're treating it just like any other grant?
Correct. Tracy, where'd she go?
And you have to have a whole person to do all that?
She manages several contracts, so she gets a report back.
Hello, I'm Tracy Slaughter. As Kelly said, I manage several contracts at Rural Capital, but in this specific one for WCI, like Kelly said, we send out the application notices, we get the applications back, I track the costs, I get the invoices, things like that, but it's for chambers, ISDs, and economic development companies. Was that, I'm not sure, did I answer your question? Yeah, so the way we do it, we let the ISDs manage their own vendors for the events, and then, so they coordinate with them, they do all the procurement proposals, whatever, and then they submit the invoice to us, and then we reimburse the IC or whomever, and then they'll reimburse to the vendors. The board.
And as a disclaimer, definitely work with your contract manager at TWC ahead of time and propose this idea, and they can help you navigate that as well.
It's however the schools handle, everyone has their own procurement process. So however the ISDs or whomever handle their procurement process, they don't have to prove to us how they procured it. That's between the ISD and the vendor. We just get the invoices, and then we pay the ISD or whomever is holding it. The audit would be for the ISD, and then whatever we give them, they would submit that as their proof of whatever.
Thank you.
I have a question for Tracy. So do you just have like a financial MOU with the school district, or is it a non-financial? How are you reimbursing them without a contract? Okay.
And that's kind of our agreement. So on the application, I'll tell them exactly how much they're going to be funded for, what it's for, the amount. They're going to give me the event. They're going to give me an estimate of all the costs. And then once we approve that, that's our agreement. Everything is signed. So that's like an agreement between us and the requester. So we have an audit trail for everything on our side and their side as well.
Thank you, Tracy.
Say again. Okay, so like Kelly said, we can do everything except food. The only time we can actually reimburse for food would be for, let's say, for example, the students were going to be somewhere all day and they were going to miss lunch in the cafeteria or wherever, then we would be able to pay for the students' food, but we don't pay for food for like the exhibitors. Other than that, we do everything from venue cost, tablecloths, advertising fees, marketing, paper, supplies, transportation costs. I think for Georgetown, they bus the kids from the school to the venue. So just anything that has to do with the cost outside of food, other than if it's for the students who miss lunch. And like Kelly said, we've funded 8 events. It's been a really good program. We've had a lot of interest. And we've basically funded all applications that we received. We didn't turn anybody down or deny anybody. So.
See, other people like this idea. See, that's why I stole it from you. And I will say transportation, I know I said it already, but there's a bus driver shortage in our areas. And so a lot of students have to share buses to get to different events, and they have to share with other campuses. So that has actually been a popular request. And so in order for them to get to our events, a lot of times we may sponsor that transportation. They contract with their bus, and we ensure that they are able to get to our different industry events.
We have about 10 more minutes, so any other questions? And I want to thank the Rural Cap team for being called on and not asked about it. And Lori, because, well, I already told her I was going to call on her, so.
Well, thank y'all. Definitely check out Lori's session next. Which room are you going to be in? North. All right, thanks.